And when I was a kid, the arcade stuff was just so elite because back then, like the 2600 would try to do the arcade games, but it failed miserably. You know, you'd be playing Asteroids, kind of thinking you were, but it was so bad, really, compared to the arcades. And it really wasn't until the NES where it kind of caught up to what the arcades could do, and that's probably why the arcades started fading away, because the consoles just got that much better. But as far as like comparing the 2600, you know, because that is what was out when the arcade existed, I mean, it just couldn't compete. You know, the arcade was so elite. But yeah, the NES definitely changed that. But still, I mean, I'd rather play Galaga on a Galaga cabinet than on the NES. It's still a little different, you know, because the TV is landscape and Galaga's portrait, so it's still not the same exactly. But nothing beats the original hardware.
At least the console doesn't take your quarters every time you play it.
This is true. And it takes up a lot less space, too. It's more practical, really.
So, you have a question?
Yes.
John, I've been watching your videos for a while, and I see many other collectors have Dig Dug. How come you don't have a Dig Dug? It's an uber classic.
It is an uber classic, and I do want a Dig Dug. And Dig Dug is a funny game to me, though, because I remember Dig Dug really fondly, and I consider myself a Dig Dug guy. And when I had the 16-1 and also in the MAME, I actually played Dig Dug a lot. And so did my wife, actually. My wife liked Dig Dug a lot. And I played it so much that I realized that it was a little more one-dimensional than I wanted it to be over time. I didn't think this initially, but like after months or a year playing it in MAME or on the 16-1. So I've been a little conflicted about Dig Dug because I'm worried that it wouldn't have longevity in my collection. But if I did find a Cabaret or maybe the Irish one, the cool Irish Dig Dug cabinet, I might jump on one of those. But not the upright. Dig Dug plays really good in the MAME.
It does. There's a second one too.
Yeah.
With the bug gram.
Yeah, Dig Dug 2. Yeah, I played that one. It's cool.
Yeah, music's pretty good.
Do you have a Dig Dug cabinet?
Nah, I play anything.
Okay.
No, I was just going to ask, I'd asked you once before about, like, I'm a big guy like you, but more of the pinball stuff. Are you going to be doing any more of the pinball stuff? I talked to you once about maybe doing some LEDs too.
Yeah.
Like, well, I have a whirlwind like you, and
Yeah.
it just,
Did you LED it?
yes, and it's like night and
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
So, as far as pinball goes and me, I'll say this, when I got my whirlwind, that was my first pin. And it once I realized that game had like the rule set that it did, which took a couple weeks. Because when I was a kid, I really didn't play pinball. That was like an old guy thing. That was like, and it was all like the EM stuff, you know, and it just wasn't very sexy compared to Asteroids and games like that at the time. So I really didn't play a lot of pinball as a kid at all. I did occasionally like at campgrounds, but it wasn't a passion. And when I was and a whirlwind showed up on eBay that happened to be close to my house, and I made a deal with the guy outside eBay, and I grabbed it, and I brought it home, and I was beside myself, and I started playing it, and then I'm like, oh my God, this is so deep. I never knew pinball had rules like that. I didn't know that it told a story, and there's modes. I just thought you hit the ball around and try to survive as long as you could. And when I realized that, I'm like, oh my God, video games are dumb. Like, I really went through that phase like for a few months where I'm like, pinball is the best thing ever. I mean, video games are not where it is. And then, so I started like wanting to get more pinball machines, and I don't remember which was the one I got after. Where did I get after Whirlwind? Was it Simpsons? I don't know. So then I started getting like Simpsons, and I had No Good Gophers. I had all these pins, and then I started like, there was a lot of sameness, you know, and I started noticing that. And I started backing off pins. And also I noticed that the pinball scene is so different than the video game scene. The guys in that scene are just different guys. It's like a really different vibe, you know? And it's very more competitive than video games, I think. And the guys are almost psychotic about like the mods and and the guys are, I think, in a much higher income level too, you know?
It kind of relates to classic muscle cars.
Yeah. Right. And so I realized I can't compete with this. I can't be in the scene. I can't chase after medieval madness. I'm not spending $15,000 on a pinball machine. And so a turning point for me was when I had Theater of Magic, because I bought that for $3,000. That was the most expensive game I ever bought. And the game was a little flat to me because it initially I thought it was so sexy, but it was so repetitive. Hit the trunk, hit the trunk, hit the trunk. And I started feeling guilty having all that money tied up in the basement, so I sold it. And then that was the moment where I backed off pins, you know. And then I ended up getting a couple more after, like the Black Knight, but that was cheap. But anyway, to go back to your question, I agree with you. I need to do more pin vids, but really I have backed off of that a little bit. But I do want to do LEDs, and I want to put them in my Whirlwind, maybe my NBA Fast Break. But I'll tell you this, it's awesome. But I'll tell you, the LEDs confuse me because everyone says, don't get the kits, don't get the kits, don't get the kits. The kits are overpriced. I go on CoinTaker, I look at the LED kit for Whirlwind, and then some other guy saying, don't get the kit, don't get the kit. And then I'm like, okay, well then what do I do? He's like, oh, just match the LED to the insert, you know. Then you start trying to do that, and you're like, well, which LED do I buy? So I've been a little overwhelmed by the whole LED thing. So I need to find someone with the LED setup that I like. Can you like make me a list?
Everyone that I work,
Yeah.
I work with an operator on the Outer Banks, North Carolina,
Yeah.
and you know, I do some restorations and stuff for him, and I'm kind of one of those guys. I'll make a list of every base type, you know, whether it's the bulk, 44 or
Right.
55, and just go on and color match all the inserts and some of the GI. And sometimes it's an experiment. I mean, there's a Whirlwind out here that's colored a little bit different than mine that I
Yeah.
really like. It's got some more blue on the top.
Right.
And it's all personal. You know,
But someone told me, was it you or someone else, that one had bad flashers or something? You don't want to do what they did with the flashers? And someone told me that.
I mean,
So there's all these, I hear all these opinions. Oh, you can't get the CoinTaker kit because
Right.
they did this wrong, you know?
Right. And that's why I don't like the kits, because it's somebody else's idea of how
Right.
it is. So you just kind of get what you want and then it's experiment. Like there's my Rescue 911's out there, and it's the one on the back wall with
Yeah.
the, you know, all the blinky
Right.
stuff on it, and right next to the Whirlwind. And you know, there's some incandescents in there, like the flashers, that I just like those. I've tried the LED ones. I call them like the brain melter ones. I mean,
They're just so
they're
bright.
shockingly
Yeah.
bright, you know. So I just put the incandescents in there, and I like that. But you just have to get a few and experiment. You know,
Yeah.
so.
But I think LEDs, I'm warming up to the idea of LEDs. I kind of threw my nose up at it initially, because,
Right.
oh, that's not how they did it.
Yeah,
But you know, like, the Whirlwind really is dim compared to,
yeah, when you see one,
I mean, even next to the NBA Fast Break, it's dim. You know, it's just, they didn't have a lot of GI in that general illumination, you know. I'll do it. We'll do it. This winter. Maybe. It's a good winter project.
yes.
So if you're any type of arcade collector, for any length of time, unless you're just rolling the dough, you are trying to score deals, and
Yeah.
the best deals are broken games.
They are.
But that's a huge hurdle for a lot of folks to overcome. They're like, this is such a foreign entity to me. I don't know. I don't have any idea about electronics. The monitor's going to kill me. What do I do? What was the first hurdle for you to do, like, self-repair that you felt, oh my gosh, I did that. That feels great.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of thrown into it, going back to my Donkey Kong, because the clown that shipped it to me didn't bolt the monitor down. And I opened the back door and the monitor fell out. You know, and that was my first game. And I was thrown into the hobby right then and there. Because the neck snapped off the tube, and the like parts of the monitor like fell down and like smashed into the PCB on the side, and there was like all kinds of capacitors and stuff laying in the bottom of the cabinet that were sharded off of the PCB. So that very moment, I was thrown into the hobby. Like that was it, because I had to fix it, right? Now the guy that sold it to me supported me. You know, he sent me like a new chassis, a new tube, and a new PCB. But I had to that was my first like exposure to what's what. You know, it's like, oh, I have to learn to discharge a monitor because I have to get this part on here. You know, so that was the game that really did it for me. But that was on a very small level, and then I don't remember. So then I started capping 10 or 20 EZs. You know, and I don't know what I used as a guide to do that initially. I think I just read. I mean, I read before I tackle any project. I do a lot of stupid research. I really try to find as many threads. I mean, you'd be surprised if you have a problem on your game, a very specific problem, like I don't know, like Robotron's throwing up a RAM error, you know, something like that, you know, and I will Google that, and then I will Google that like 30 different ways, like did someone say it like this? Did someone say it like that? And I'll find a thread on Claw from 12 years ago, you know. And I'll also go to, this is actually a pro tip. The Rec Game Arcade Collecting RGVAC, which is the old news group that all these old timers were on before Claude. That archive still exists in Google Groups. And when you Google a string, if you Google something, Google doesn't seem to pick up stuff from that. So you need to go to the Google Groups and go to Rec Games Arcade Collective with RGVAC, and you can search in there, and you will find so much information about stuff. I mean, I've used that countlessly. Like I lay in bed, like I know, like, okay, tomorrow I need to work on this, but I'm not really sure if what I'm doing is correct, and I'm not sure if this is the problem, and I'll just sit in bed on the iPad the night before I'm gonna work on it, and I'll be in the Google group, and I'll be Googling it a million times, and I'll find a thread from like 1999 or 98 and 97 of some guys talking about the same thing, and then I'll Google it, and I'll read it over here, and I'll read it over here, and I'll read it over here, and then I'll start taking an average, like this guy said this over here, which kind of matches what this guy said over here, so there must be some truth to that, because they're both kind of saying the same thing. So that's what I did a lot, and I still do that, because I'm constantly finding new problems I never encountered before, and so I do a ton of research. I love researching it, and I love finding the problem on some weird thread, on some weird forum like 10 years ago. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah. So advice to new hobbyists, as far as something technical, what do you think, if you could give them advice as to what they might need to do some research on or learn about first if they're going to dive into arcade collecting, what would that be?
Well, soldering, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, get yourself a good soldering iron, and I mean, if you think you're going to be doing this for a while, I would spend $100 or $150 and buy a good soldering iron. I use that welder. I know people throw their nose up at that soldering iron, but I really have good luck with the soldering iron I have. And that was like $150, but that will make you a better solderer, because I had a cheap one initially, and you just can't. You think that it's you that's causing these problems on your board. You're lifting traces and you have giant amount. No, it's a soldering iron. So get a good soldering iron, because if you're going to learn to solder, have the right tool. Get a multimeter. Figure out how to use that. I had like some Radio Shack book like from the 80s that was like how to use a multimeter, and it just has all the different tests in it. And that was like, I bought it at a garage sale for like 50 cents. And I was reading that book in the beginning. Just it shows you how to just do very basic tests. So, I mean, with a multimeter, you can figure a lot of stuff out, But, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I fix is through deduction, because I'm not really an engineer, Like, I just kind of start eliminating variables until I kind of hone in on it. So, I don't know, you just almost have to dive in. I just think that research and reading up on the topic as much as possible before you do it really benefits you, and also having just basic soldering skills and multimeter skills, because you can get pretty far with that stuff. I mean, I'm going to start stepping my game up, because I'm going to get a logic probe, and I'm going to use that with computer space. That's my plan here. But, it's been a bunch of years until I really feel the need to do that, and I feel like now I need to start learning the logic probe and doing that kind of stuff. But you don't need that initially, But I've gotten so lucky on fixing stuff. It's crazy. It's like, you're just... I remember I had a Donkey Kong, cause I built a second Donkey Kong, and this is just an example. I've gotten lucky just fixing things randomly. Like I had this Donkey Kong and the sound wasn't working. And I'm like, well, I know there's a sound CPU on there. I just changed the CPU and it worked. It's funny because I talked to my friend Adam. You guys know Adam. He has a One Circuit website. Because Adam's an engineer, And I go over to his house, I ask him questions, and he's so over analytical about everything. And I just I'm like, no, it can't be that. I almost feel like ignorance is bliss kind of thing, Because sometimes he overthinks it, which, I mean, Adam's brilliant, don't get me wrong, but ignorance is kind of bliss. You kind of will figure stuff out that way, Because you're not afraid to try stuff.
Anybody have a question they'd like to ask? All right.
I'll let beer now. No, I'm kidding.
Anytime, man. All right, here we go. 2 words. Cabinet identification.
Yes.
Where did you get that uncanny? Is that just, would you say it's just from years and years and years of staring at them? Because I've stared at them for years and I still can't tell a New York from the time. Right?
Yeah, that's become like a little game on the John's Arcade forum. Everyone's always posting, hey, what cabinet is this? And you did that with the New York.
Right. And I was like, sure, it was something else. And you were
thought it was a title cabinet.
New York.
Well, it had that weird Gottlieb coin door.
It did have that, but I figured the corner might come from somewhere else. It was
I don't
practice
know,
time or whatever.
that's just from experience, because, again, it goes back to that Craigslist thing, where I would always see a game on Craigslist, and I'd always be suspicious. I'm like, they're calling it this game, I don't think it's that game, there's just clues, you know? And then I would start Googling, trying to find the game, and look at the pictures, and doing that enough times, I think I've just, it's kind of fun.
How much is too much for a nibbler and a time pilot cabinet? I found one of those recently.
A nibbler and a time pilot cabinet?
Couldn't pull the trigger on it.
I don't know.
They wanted 300 for it.
I was gonna say a couple $100 probably.
Just give it.
There's so many time pilot conversions out there too, and that cabinet falls apart.
What is up? Why are so many put in time pilots?
I don't know.
Were there really that many time pilots out
I
there?
think so. And that cabinet isn't very sturdy, I think too.
No, it's like part of it.
Yeah, it is.
All right, you talked earlier about being lucky with your repairs,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering, have you gotten lucky in a lot of your pickups too?
Yeah.
So if you've been in the hobby long enough, you've probably gotten a free game along the way. Does that happen to you?
Yeah. I have a breakout in my basement that was free. Actually, I had to help a guy move a game for it, but it was pretty free. That was actually a crazy story.
Yeah, man.
So I have a friend of mine who lives with his parents, and he lives in the basement. And so, hold on, is this his backstory? I don't know. I'll stay in the room.
There are little children in the audience.
No, it's not. It's not. All right. No, but so he said, John, I know you really want a super breakout, because I had said that, like because I did. I wanted to break out a super breakout because that game was really cool when I was a kid. And I kind of wanted to dabble a little in the black and white stuff, so I thought Super Breakout would be cool. So he's like, I got a Super Breakout. He's like, if you help me get this Mortal Kombat into my basement, you can have the Super Breakout. I'm like, are you sure, dude? He's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, I really want you to have it. I know you want the game, and I could use some help. And so I go to his house, and it was just him and I bringing this game into his basement, and it was like a bulkhead scenario, and the stairs were all like falling apart, and it was horrible, right? And then we get in the basement, and the ceiling is like barely 6 feet tall, and I think the game is barely 6 feet tall, right? And so the game is a beast; it's a monster. And him and I get it down there, and he's not. Whatever. I was carrying a lot of the weight, so we're bringing it down, and we get it down, and it was frightening. It really was, because it was so heavy. You've moved one of those cabinets, right? And it was stressful, and we get it in the basement, and it's on its back, like this, right? And then we realize we can't get it up, right? And again, it's in his parents' basement, right? And like their washing machines here, their dryer, and then this game is in between them, and you can't get through the basement now because the game is stuck down here, right? And so we move the game over here, and we're trying to like rotate it and get it, because in his bedroom over here, the ceiling was a little taller, and the game would clear the ceiling, but in this section over here, it won't clear, right? And then so we're trying to get the game into his room like this, and then I had to go through this narrow little area right here, and it wouldn't go. It was stuck, right? And it just wouldn't happen. And then I'm like, well, dude, you gotta take the control panel off. And she's like, well, how do you? And then we couldn't go because it was all wedged. And anyway, I was there for like 3 hours, right, trying to get this game. And it was like 97 degrees out, and we're sweating, moving this horrible game. And honestly, I was so miserable. I'm like, I need to get out of here. It's like Sunday, and I'm like trapped in this basement. I'm like, I can't leave. I'm like, I can't leave this kid with this game like this, because it's in his basement on the floor. His parents can't get into the basement now as a result, because it's a small, cramped basement. And I'm like, dude, I gotta go home, man. Right? And he's like, well, can you help me get it out? And then we try to get it out, and we can't. We physically cannot do it. It was too heavy. And I'm like, dude, I go, this feels really unsafe, dude. I go, I don't feel comfortable doing this, because we're trying to get the game out, and it was so heavy and so awkward, and the stairs were so crumbly and narrow, and it was like steep, and I'm like, dude, I gotta go home. And I left. And that's how I got that free game. So I think he had some. I'm like, dude, can you like call people to help you? And he's like, so I get it. It worked out fine. I don't know if it ever got his room.
Well, you said you were in a precarious position before, and,
Yeah.
and you said this doesn't feel safe.